there will be no real non-controlled currency in the world.
We're coming for you, banks.
Bitcoin is punk rock. Deal with it.
You split, we bankrupt you.
Do you use Lightning wallets to pay for things or not?
No.
Bitcoin Cash would be seen as more of a threat to the United States hegemony than Bitcoin.
Miles Town, what's your favorite kind of money?
Bitcoin Cash.
Hello and welcome back to the Bitcoin Cash podcast, following Bitcoin Cash on its rise to global reserve currency. This is episode number 53, Problems, CoinFlex, Maximalism, or Banks. Today is Sunday, the 10th of July, 2022. I'm your host, Jeremy. Jett is in the producer's chair today, and also, despite being under the weather, filling in as the co-host, guest discusser, however you want to put it, because it's been a pretty weird week in crypto. So we're gonna have to just try and cover off on what's been going on as per usual. So let's just get straight into it then. Good morning, Bitcoin Jason. Welcome to the show, and hope you're doing good in Australia. The price, positive bull trap week, but now flat. Bitcoin Cash $106.14 USD, and one BTC buys 196 BCH. We did actually have a good week for most of the week. The price had kind of risen up a little bit, but seems like it has died off a little bit today. And I guess with all of the surrounding circumstances, it's not really that surprising that we're kind of not doing all that well, really. But no other big moves in the market. Just, yeah, I guess bit of a bull trap week. Crypto overall is up a little bit, but I don't really feel like the bear market has ended. I feel like people are just kind of getting to the point of realizing that we're going to be in for a bit more of a bear market, which usually is not the end of it, but but you can see the start of people trying to be flushed out of the ecosystem who are not in it for the long haul anyway. And then we got the cent in USD, which is also still kind of spiky. Transactions. Totally don't know what the running order is. Transactions are still flat. Again, no big change there. I'll be a bit more encouraged when the transactions start rising up again, but we're still at kind of baseline of about 30K per week, and also 30K per day. And then we've also got this cent in USD, which has sort of died off. It's still kind of spiking around a little bit. So again, we kind of want to see all this activity drop off to really confirm that we've completely finished with the bear market, but I don't see any indicators of that, and probably not likely to see it for a few weeks more. I'd say, maybe a month or two. So that's kind of where the markets are at. First story for today is the biggest news in BCH, continuing the CoinFlex drama. So for listeners who did not listen to either of the previous two episodes, probably the best thing is if you just go back and listen to those, especially to the one last week, number 52, because there's so much content and context in that about this particular story. I'm not going to rehash it all here for everybody who has already heard that. So, but essentially the story is that CoinFlex, a BCH exchange that are running the bridge, halted all their withdrawals a couple of weeks ago. Then they claimed Roger Ver owed them $47 million, which he denies. They were trying to do a crowd fund to cover this gap with a new pretty scammy kind of token. Then they said they were going to reopen withdrawals, which they didn't do. And then we were waiting for updates. So the first point I want to make is somebody commented on the YouTube comments last week that when I was explaining all about it, that I was kind of laughing a bit, and it sort of seemed that I was unsympathetic towards CoinFlex holders, and that therefore I was kind of representing BCH badly. And I wanted to kind of clear up that a little bit. Obviously, it sucks that anybody who has lost money, if you're caught up in this, especially people with a lot of money, you know, that's terrible, and it hurts the ecosystem. It hurts the BCH brand. It's really bad. You never like to see people getting scammed and rugged. The reason that I was, kind of laughing around and joking about it, and I even said that I like this kind of chaos when it happens, is kind of that's what cryptocurrency. It's not about scams and rugs or whatever, but it's kind of an inevitable part of the package, and you sort of got to embrace that free market element to it. I sort of feel so when things, even though it is terrible and it does suck, like I said last week, there's kind of a entertainment value, or there's kind of a historical moments, we were there when it happened kind of thing, that you can sort of draw from those events to try and sort of salve the loss of all the actual problems that are happening. And on this show, I've said repeatedly, and I'll say it a million times more, not your keys, not your coins, withdraw from exchanges, hold your own coins, and teach everybody you possibly can to do the same. And that will prevent you getting into these problems, maybe with a slight exception of the SmartBCH. But even in that case, I'm sure we emphasize on the show many, many times that it's a centralized bridge. We're waiting for the decentralized bridge. Don't put in more money than you can afford to lose, and all of that. So if anybody doesn't sort of like, how sympathetic I'm being, or that I'm not representing the Bitcoin Cash community or brand well enough, well, then the simple option is do a better job yourself. That's really what it comes down to. I'm not the official delegate of Bitcoin Cash. Nobody is. That's the whole point. But at the same time, anybody can do exactly what I've done, and just created this channel and teamed up with Jett and started speaking to the community. So if you think Bitcoin Cash needs somebody explaining it in a different way, or not, portraying CoinFlex's disaster in a different way, do it yourself, because that's how the whole system works. Right. That's enough about that. So how have things developed in the last week? So on the next slide, we've got here. So the first thing obviously was the 3rd of July, where there was a much anticipated announcement from Roger Ver, who had been pretty silent on his part of the story. He just said, look, I don't owe any counterparty any debts. In fact, they owe me money. And he kept pretty quiet about it all. So he agreed essentially to give a statement on Bitcoin Cash Hangouts run by Fiendish Crypto, which are absolutely amazing. And it was kind of a perfect venue for this sort of thing on the CoinFlex drama, because everybody was waiting with bated breath to find out what was going to happen. Quite a lot of people tuned in. So Bitcoin Cash community pulled a bit of a sneaky one and got Rolando Bryson to talk about adoption in St. Martin and the hearings that we also covered on the last show. And they also talked about cash tokens and about any hedge, and got a bunch of BCH shilling in to all the people who tuned in just for the drama. There was at least 500 people, I think, listening, and there was probably more over time, or after the matter. So there was a massive amount of BCH, hype, because you may as well make lemonade out of lemons, right? We've got this negative publicity, and people were interested. So there was a bunch of people as well listening in. It was kind of interesting to see. So then it finally got around to his statement after about an hour and a half, I think, and it was a bit of a letdown. And I mean, a lot of people predicted this, so maybe it wasn't really that surprising. But what happened was he essentially just reiterated his main point, which is, okay, the lawyers are hashing it out. I can't say anything. too much. I don't really owe anyone any debts, and so on and so forth. And then he made a bit of a cheeky move by saying, but oh, look who we've got in the chat. This lawyer called Daniel someone. Oh, he's a bit of an expert on these matters. And then this lawyer came in and started talking a bit about what's happening with CoinFlex and about Mt. Gox and everything. And what Roger didn't mention was that this lawyer had previously worked at Bitcoin.com and might even be literally his lawyer that is advising him on this whole CoinFlex scenario. So it was kind of a bit of a PR move where the lawyer was then able to say, oh, and it's like Mt. Gox and CoinFlex have been really scammy, and sort of put in some legal wrappings and discussions, and Roger could just sort of recuse himself, but he didn't really give the full disclosure that this was not just a random event that this guy happened to be on the call. It was clearly a bit of a setup, which became obvious afterwards. But then what happened was Doug Polk, who was the poker player who was hired by CoinFlex and who then ditched them as their brand ambassador because of all this drama, he started talking to the lawyer, and they had this really good chat about it all, which was, again, just driving the engagement up through the roof. Loads of people were tuning in to listen to this, and I thought it was a really good discussion. So anybody who's interested in all the details of that can go back and listening to that recording. But I think the only other sort of relevant part of that was that Mark Lamb was also given the opportunity to speak on the call, which he declined to do. So I felt like that was a bit of a mistake on his part personally, because he could have come on the call and then just basically said the same thing as Roger. Okay, yep, the lawyers are hashing it out. I'm under NDA. I can't really say too much, blah, blah, blah. But he didn't even do that. And so as a result, he was kind of trying to complain a little bit afterwards that, or at least people who were kind of sympathetic to his side of the argument. I don't want to say he specifically complained about it, but he's basically said, look, I've already given my point of view in other forums. I didn't feel the need to chip in there, but I think he would have been well served to do so, because in the absence of making any comment, obviously the story gets driven kind of by the other side, such as it was. I think Roger kind of won that part of the PR battle.
But also leading up to the talk, there were, I can't remember which Telegram group it was in, but he was like, yeah, if they give me the opportunity to speak, I'll take it. And then they gave him the opportunity to speak, and he's like, nothing, dead silence, crickets.
Yeah, exactly. And it was known that there was going to be this space in advance. So it wasn't like he had no opportunity to prepare. If he needed to discuss anything with his lawyers or figure out a statement or get something ready or whatever, he easily could have done it. I mean, obviously, he might have also been quite busy with everything else he had to do, but this was a pretty central moment of the whole story, especially at that time, right?
Yeah.
So I think, yeah.
Sorry, I saw some comment too about Roger bringing out the lawyer and that being like a bullying tactic or something. And granted, I have zero experience with lawyers, so I don't know, maybe that is. But from an outsider's perspective, it's like, okay, well, maybe if you want to read between lines about intention in Roger, sure, I'll give you that much. But the fact that he's just there and speaking doesn't mean a goddamn thing, right? Like, if it was just about getting spicy, then I would expect Roger to say, like, I don't know, to hell with CoinFlex or something a little more than just, I don't know that money. We'll have to wait and see what comes of this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I think it really just was... It was kind of the case that Mark just didn't present himself that well in this scenario, because he could have done the exact same thing. He could have had, his lawyers in the chat if he wanted to bring them into the. I guess maybe he got a bit sort of blindsided by that move, but he did say beforehand, "Oh, I'll give a I'll say something if I'm given the chance to speak, kind of hinting, oh, but I don't think I will be, and that this is kind of biased against me. But then that's completely not what happened. And actually, he was given a chance to speak, and there was no problem. And he just didn't have much to say. He was just kind of on the back foot, and that was the end of that. So I guess in this scenario where, like we talked about in the last episode, Roger sort of seemed to have more of the support, that kind of confirmed that even more. That would have been a good point for CoinFlex to try and scrape back some credibility, or if they had some new details or whatever that they could bring out, that would have been a pretty excellent opportunity to do it. But they kind of didn't. And so now that lot moved them further behind, I think, in the community's favor or impression as a result of that, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of already eager for when we can just be like, all right, fuck him, and move on. Like, the drama was fun for maybe a week or so, but like, can we get those SmartBCH coins out of there and get on with our lives?
Yeah, and I think that is the sentiment that is sort of starting to come together. That I've seen. Look, people are agreeing in the chat, and I've seen some comments about that on Telegram and stuff too. Is that it's kind of rapidly coming to a point where the community can't really do anything, like except for the people who are directly involved, like Roger and his lawyers and CoinFlex and their lawyers and whatever negotiating they're doing behind the scenes. Maybe a couple of the huge CoinFlex holder accounts who have been directly contacted by Mark. We can't really do much about it, and everybody just wants to get on with their lives. And it's only obviously the people who have money in the exchange might follow it along further too, but the rest of the community just wants to okay, set this aside. All right, we've paid the price for that, and let's move on and build something kind of positive instead. It really is just this issue of the 100K BCH that we can't really afford to let go or ignore or overlook, because we need those coin backs to run the BCH, the SmartBCH network. Although it has been running fine in the meantime. Basically, like, the chain itself actually works. You just can't send coins in or out, and the block NG bridge, which was created as kind of a stopgap measure with arbitrage, has actually just got things flowing again to the point where it is almost 1-to-1. So if you want to get out of SmartBCH, now is kind of your chance. You can get out at market rates, or maybe only slightly below, depending on the day. So sort of enough band-aids have been patched together that it's all good, and it's just going to be really unfortunate to basically have this hanging over the community going forward, right?
Maybe, but like, it's just like a moment. Just like, we need to take a moment and actualize like what we can take from this, which is we, as a community, promoted something. I won't go so far as to say under false pretenses, but we promoted something that I don't think fully understood, and it wasn't communicated properly, like wasn't communicated transparently enough. But I don't know. Like,
we did. It was well, like, it was caveated at pretty much every stage. Okay, CoinFlex are running the centralized bridge.
Yes, but the degrees of separation, I think, even personally, like, I'm very much not your keys, not your coins. But when it came to SmartBCH, I wasn't thinking, anything of it, because I was like, oh, there's, if I don't have an account on CoinFlex, but I use Hop, and that works just fine. Well, it's the same thing at the end of the day. So, I mean, even if I'm just talking to myself, like, I'm sure there are other people in the community in the exact same position where they're like, oh, I need to, maybe go and actually read some more white papers and understand the inner workings of things. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really think this will be that big of an issue. The thing that I see that kind of worries me and also really irritates me is some of the more influential people being like, oh, this is the last time Bitcoin Cash has burned me. I'm going on to do this other thing. Well, it wasn't Bitcoin Cash that burned you in this case. It's fucking two people. Like,
yeah. Well, I think, but that's, yeah, it is to be said that, like I was saying about the whole free market approach, like BCH basically gets stronger from chaos, and it's very painful and it's very slow and so on and so forth. But it is ultimately very effective. That is another thing that can be said for this. Like, I don't think the community is going to have this similar kind of problem again, right? Just because there will be more, like you're talking about, more voices alert, more people willing to speak up, and it will be more of a case of, instead of it being like a, an old days Google don't be evil type of thing, which is what we had with CoinFlex, instead it will be like a can't be evil thing. And I think because the community was at that time as well, when SmartBCH was launching and everything, it was so exciting and everybody wanted to be involved and have some good news and some good momentum. And it did happen, and lots of people got involved and all that. To me, it really just shows that if BCH could just go 1 year or 2 to 3 years even with no drama, it will just start wrecking. It'll be rocketing up in success and in transaction stuff. All the stuff that it has accomplished through the last 5 years or so, with more pain and more drama and more problems than any other coin. Any other coin would already be dead at this point, let alone still making advances and with some sort of industry leading stuff, it feels like to me. So but it's just kind of a case of, anything that can go wrong will go wrong, and maybe we need to be more vigilant about that. Maybe if there had initially been a multi-sig setup or something, then we wouldn't be in this situation, and we should just shore up the defense a bit more in that case, right?
I guess it just makes me wonder, what, like, this is just what ifs. Never mind.
Well, just go on to the next slide.
Yeah.
Because so that was the 3rd of July, right? And then we had another one yesterday. We had the 9th of July. So CoinFlex, so the first thing was CoinFlex was supposed to give an update on Tuesday, which they basically said wait for the weekend. So once again, they sort of failed their own promised update schedule. Like, all the deadlines that they've given that they basically haven't hit, right? Like, they said everybody was going to be able to withdraw on the 30th, and they weren't. They said we're going to give an update later on, and they weren't. There's another way that CoinFlex is kind of screwing themselves over, giving these deadlines and then not sticking to them. So they said, look, the next update will be on Tuesday, but then actually the Tuesday update was wait until the weekend. So then on Saturday, there was actually a very big update, and I've split this into 2 segments because they're 2 sort of slides, 2 sections, because there's a lot in this, right? So the second one is the SmartBCH coin. So we'll get to that in a second. That's a separate case. I want to handle the rest of it first. The first half of it was that they said, look, this $47 million that was supposedly owed by Roger on his defaulted position is now not $47 million. It was $84 million. And the difference, the way that it's nearly doubled, was that in trying to sell off enough stuff, particularly apparently a lot of Flex coin on Roger's account, in order to just stem the bleeding, they obviously also destroyed the Flex coin market, selling in however much millions of Flex coin he had, on top of course, liquidating all the BCH that he had presumably in there, which includes, which dropped the BCH market price, as we've seen. Whatever other coins he might have had lying around on there, they've all been sold off presumably at this point, and that has all dropped the prices. So things have gone from 47 million bad to apparently 84 million dollars bad, which is obviously not good. They said, okay, but we're sort of taking action to fix all this, and they've opened arbitration with the Hong Kong International Arbitration Center and said, look, it's going to take us 1 year to get the money back from Roger, presumably, if all goes well with that scenario, right? And that's kind of premised on their statement beforehand that, okay, we have a personal guaranteed contract from Roger that if his account goes into the negatives, instead of liquidating him like we would anybody else, we'll let him put in more margin, and that he's personally on the hook for that. So whether or not they can chase that up, I guess, depends on this contract that they have with him, which nobody else has seen. Nobody else even knows for sure that it exists. And yeah, it's between Roger and them, right? So nobody really knows about that. So as for the holders, who are just getting increasingly screwed because the withdrawals were not allowed, it's now come onto this plan that in 1 week's time from now, again, just to, saying it again, they haven't been good with their deadlines, but supposedly in 1 week, which is time for all this to get implemented, they're going to give 10% of the CoinFlex account depositors their assets back and available to withdraw. So if you had 10 BCH, you would get back 1 BCH available to withdraw. And if you had 10 BTC, you would get back 1 BTC. And if you had 100, whatever else you might have on there, 100 Litecoins, you get back 10 Litecoins. So you get 10% of all your coins back, which you can withdraw, and you'll get 90%. The other 90% of your assets will all be essentially sold, liquidated for USDC and locked. So you'll have a balance that shows basically locked balance, however much, let's say $1,000 was the rest of your assets. So all your other stuff gets sold, and you'll have credit $900 or $1,000 of USDC on your account, with the idea being that they'll slowly release those coin like that value to you later. So it's kind of a bit weird, because you would think, why are they forced selling everything into USDC? That seems partly an administrative move on their part, that it just makes it simpler if they just liquidate everything and it just all becomes USDC. But it kind of seems premised on the idea that if crypto rockets up, they will be even further in the hole than they already are, because however much Litecoins and BCH and whatever that they owe to people, if the price goes up and they owe, if they owe someone $20,000, which is 1 Bitcoin today, then that's fine. But if Bitcoin doubles in price, goes to $40,000, and they still owe that person 1 Bitcoin, well, now they owe them $40,000, and their hole that they have of now 84 million is supposedly all denominated in USDC. So they're trying to clear up those two things and at least match them up. Now, this is obviously kind of a shit sandwich for the depositors, who are getting forced liquidated against their own wishes, on top of the fact that they can't withdraw their money. So, well, they're getting 10% back, so I guess that's better than nothing, but still getting forced liquidated to USDC is only a good thing if it luckily works out that the market drops between now and when they get some later option to withdraw, which is maybe going to happen or maybe not. But we're kind of moving more towards the more bear, the bottom of the bear market. We're getting closer to that. So it's a terrible time to have that happen, rather than just hodling your coins pretty much. So then on top of this, you had some more information in there that apparently a large US exchange or ATS platform is kind of now in the mix of going to buy up some equity or whatever, because CoinFlex have their technology, their algorithms and their code and whatever that allows them to do their their futures markets. And apparently somebody is interested in maybe buying some of that to put it onto securities to do, stocks and stuff like that using this technology, which is how they're trying to scrape around to get somebody to inject some cash in and bail them out, basically. So as far as that goes, I don't really know what, again, that could just be all completely hot air or not. But if it all comes together, that would be brilliant. But it's a bit of a long shot, I'd say. And previously, we've got enough soft commitments and it's all coming together. Well, that didn't really happen. So, I mean, maybe it's taking longer than they expected, but it could also just be that it's never going to happen. And so from my point of view, I mean, to be favorable to Mark, he is still communicating with the community. He hasn't vanished off the map. He is still talking to people in Telegram. He is still saying, look, I'm sorry. I understand why everybody hates me. A lot of it's out of my hands, or not really that, but a lot of it, I'm doing as much as I can, a lot of that kind of stuff. But also to be real, it's easy to just say that the deadlines have been consistently missed. The digging that the community's done has kind of turned up. Look, maybe they're in the hole. The community initially said, look, they're in the hole more than they're letting on already at the start. And they still are predicting, okay, look, we've had a look at their wallets. There's more money missing. The reason you're only getting 10% back is because the other 90% is basically already gone anyway. It's not like they have other assets to back this shit up. And so it just really is, he's not really doing himself any favors by dripping out the information in this way. We're just each, if we're going to get the bad news, we may as well just get it all at once. But instead, it's kind of being parceled out in this long series of missed deadlines and delays. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, next week we'll have a whole new plan. We're going to scrap this 90% haircut idea. We're going back to RVUSD.
Yeah, well, RVUSD was still getting mentioned as, maybe we'll fix that in there somehow, or maybe that'll be for the investors, or
it's silly,
whatever, right?
Yeah.
What's your take on this kind of update, though, just in general? Do you think they'll be able to get the money back in this kind of Hong Kong arbitration in a year's time? To me, in a year's time, who knows what's going to happen?
This is assuming, first off, that Roger owes the money. And
yeah.
Well, it seems like community consensus is Roger's been a degenerate gambler. He does owe them this money. He's just not gonna pay up. I'm still gonna hold out, and I mean, yeah, it's very likely, but I don't care one way or the other. So until I see some actual evidence, but yeah, I don't know. It just seems I'm bored of it. I don't want this to. This is in every single Bitcoin Cash chat now, and maybe this is the good transition. Give us our coins. God damn it, Mark. Give us the SmartBCH coins back, and we'll be all on our way.
Well, just the one final point before we get on to those SmartBCH coins is this whole explanation, as well as the community's digging, basically, is kind of coming to the point of, so how much of whatever they did have, how much of it has already been sold? Because it seems like Roger's coins have basically all been liquidated. That's already finished. And potentially all these other depositor assets, the 90% of the whatever, they might have already been sold too, or they might still be kind of hanging over the head of the market, if you know what I mean. So it's kind of hard to say whether, okay, we might already be just at the bottom of the price because all of those coins have been dumped and dumped and dumped, and now they're all gone. The market's absorbed it. Or it might be, okay, the first batch got dumped onto everyone. The second batch is going to be coming in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll be kind of building back up. I don't know. Do you have a theory of that? Do you think whatever they've got, they've already just sold it all? Or
I think so. There's I saw some rumor going around where sorry, Jesus Christ. back on the rails here. All right. So I saw a rumor going around some of the groups where it was like, some of the higher up big shots knew about CoinFlex's issues since like May, I think it was.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's the whole slow rug bullshit where it's like, oh, these whale insiders have been slowly selling their BCH to distance themselves from, this whole mess. Yeah, May. Thank you, Jason.
Right. Well, in that case, I mean, the main game or the main question to me is just like, eventually whoever has all these coins or whatever and wants to sell them, eventually they run out, right? And so again, like in the long run, it sort of works out better for the community if the actual organic mass community gets the chance to buy in coins at these lower prices, which they do, and then they put them in their cold storage wallets and then they hodl them for the next 3 years as things turn around, right? That's the silver lining if that's what's going on.
Regardless if
it's very painful, right?
Well, yes and no. Because regardless of if it's Roger or someone else getting liquidated, it doesn't matter. We are the whales now. Look at me. I am the whale now, right? Like, we just got to take on those roles ourselves. And we got to stop doing that. Oh, someone buy more. You buy more, motherfucker. Price is low enough now that if you have a minimum wage job, you can take $100 from every pay, toss it into... That's a whole coin right now. That's a whole coin. You can get 1 BCH every other week on a minimum wage job.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And the actual floating supply is under, probably under like 1 million BCH, right? In terms of the coins that are actually out there that if you withdrew them off an exchange, you would actually be able to get them redeemed for. So it's no joke if anybody's buying up a coin here, 2 coins here, 5 coins here. If we genuinely have a couple even 100,000 people, a couple 100,000 people picking up all those coins, they will vanish fast. And that's one of the good things about the price dropping. It's a bit copium, but the lower the price goes, the easier it is for the same sort of organic buying pressure to suck up all the supply, right? Including the Coinbase. That's something people don't think about, is there's new blocks rolling out this entire time at this lower price, right? And so that's also sort of selling pressure, which has to be done at some point to get us up to the 21 million. And if the price is low now, that's coins that are more easily absorbed into the community, kind of.
It's 6.25 coins every block, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's it. Somebody can be getting in there, throwing in a couple $100 and getting a whole mining block worth of coins on the regular. Right. So let's talk about these SmartBCH coins then. So the second element to this, the story or the update that they give, was basically the SmartBCH bridge is still locked, which of course nobody wanted to hear. And I think part of the reason, which seems to have emerged, is that CoinFlex kind of have been called out, which partly happened on that BCH Hangout Spaces, which is maybe another reason Mark decided not to comment, because they initially said, look, everybody who is a SmartBCH holder signed our terms and agreements to open an account and use the bridge, which was a decent point, although also kind of not a decent point, because CoinFlex had said on multiple occasions the coins are separated. That's a different thing. Even if we go bankrupt, it's not going to rug the community, etc. So they kind of lied about that. But in hindsight, they were sort of trying to say, well, you created an account, you deposited your coins with us, so your coins are in the same pool as everyone else's funds. But this was not really true necessarily, because once there was other services that were acting as intermediaries for the bridge, like Hop.cash, since that was then available, that meant that people could get into SmartBCH, or they could perhaps even have traded for coins on the SmartBCH side which they then wanted to take out, even though they'd never actually put any coins in. Perhaps they'd, they just did a separate side deal with somebody, and they ended up with some SmartBCH coins that they wanted to get out. Then they also were SmartBCH holders despite having no relationship with CoinFlex. And this is especially obvious because CoinFlex has their whole setup that we're not dealing with people in the US, but obviously there are loads of people in the US because obviously around securities law and stuff, but they are dealing with people in the US because people in the US can either use a VPN or could have used Hot Cash or could have found their way in some other way. So this kind of line that, all the SmartBCH holders are on the hook because they signed up to CoinFlex is not true. And there's this whole class of people who fall definitely outside that remit, and Mark is not seemingly sure what to do about them. So in this update, what was said is that the SmartBCH holders are being represented in these internal negotiations by the SmartBCH Foundation, this guy, Eric Wong, in the CoinFlex stakeholder working group, which was super bizarre because there was one or two people who said, I've heard of this guy, but there was a load of people who have said, I've never heard of this guy. We've never heard of this SmartBCH Foundation. This just seems to have been magicked up out of thin air. And that's supposedly our, in air quotes, community representative. I mean, if the community representative was Cheap Lightning and four of the devs from different SmartBCH projects, maybe you could kind of see it. But it seems, again, just like initially when Mark made the announcement, it seemed like he was trying to protect his insider whale friend at the expense of the community. Well, now the same thing has happened again with this, where whoever his mate is that he's just handpicked to be the so-called representative, while the community is just left out to dry. That doesn't make any sense. But also, according to Mark, separately in the Telegram group, he's going to ask for the SmartBCH coins to the creditors, to the large depositors, and who knows who, whether the SmartBCH can be handled separately to the rest of the assets. So if you believe his version of events, he is trying to find a way to get whoever's involved to agree, okay, look, let's just give them back the SmartBCH, and then let's just take that off the table, and then the community will stop harassing us about it, and it was their coins to begin with. I mean, you've got to be pretty optimistic. It's a bit of a long bow, but if that happened, that would be amazing. And then given this plan to liquidate everything into USDC, it seems like the SmartBCH also will probably be not a part of that, or at least Mark said our aim wouldn't be to dollarize the SmartBCH liabilities, but to keep those liabilities in BCH such that when we regain funds via fundraising, RVUSD or otherwise, we can make SmartBCH holders whole, because the idea being that maybe internally they need to figure out their liabilities in USDC, so they need to kind of clear everything out. But the SmartBCH, that's unrelated to fiat. People don't care whether we get back more or less fiat for the bridge. It was 101,000 BCH, and that's what we want back. 101,000 BCH is never going to change. So whether the price of BCH is going up or down doesn't factor into that. And so we don't want those coins liquidated, because if they do get liquidated and the price goes up, then the community is even more screwed. But we haven't heard anything also from Kui Wang about his Bodao bailout. There also hasn't been really any big updates on that. So yeah, any thoughts on this SmartBCH angle to it?
So just to add in the pile, I've also never heard of this Eric Wong guy before. But just reading the link that Jay posted here in this chat, this SmartBCH Foundation has so many more mentions of SLP. Like, okay, so first bit of this text here is the purpose of the foundation is the promotion, development, and licensing of new technologies and applications. In the foreground, but not exclusively, is the promotion, development, and licensing of the simple ledger protocol technology. To this end, the foundation pursues promoting and licensing the use of simple ledger protocol technology, promoting SmartBCH Foundation brand, promoting Bitcoin Cash blockchain use cases, fostering an open source developer community to build SLP tools that have practical and valuable use cases, provide discussion forums, documentation, say blah, 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 blah. But this is all SLP related stuff. So if this Eric fella, if this is all true, then SmartBCH, the SmartBCH Foundation, as it's written here, has no connection with the SmartBCH sidechain. If that's not the case, they really need to clarify this.
Somebody's saying here, look, Peter Ning and Stefan Russ. Well, Peter Ning is the guy who was on that one where he's basically fudding BCH and saying, look, if the hash rate falls below a certain point, I'm going to tell everyone to sell because the whole thing's going to be fucked, right? So if he was somehow involved in the, he was involved in it sort of SLP or something, and then SLP was then getting its lunch eaten by SmartBCH, and so they made this kind of covert op SmartBCH foundation. Look, basically nobody, a foundation or an association or anything like that is bad news in cryptocurrency. That's one thing I want to make sure the listeners are very well aware of, because whenever you have an association or foundation or whatever, it's some kind of undercover insider operation. It always is. There was an original Bitcoin foundation back in the day that was like this, that just turned out into being a disaster. Bitcoin SV has like some Bitcoin association or something like that who are just a nightmare as well. As soon as I read SmartBCH Foundation, I thought, no, I don't want these guys. I don't want whatever this is. Just, it's a nightmare. Let's not have, every time it just turns into who's trying to grab the money and where do they get the funds. If the community puts in the funds, then it's like a flip started with even less accountability. Who is the hierarchy? These things are done in all these shady deals. It's just a disaster. So
this is
I don't
super
want the
bad juju.
SmartBCH. Yeah, I don't want these. They just reuse the SLP Foundation text for smart. So whoever was doing an SLP Foundation, if they've now tried to be the SmartBCH Foundation, just this is terrible.
Peter's part of that. Peter's hanging around in the Telegram chats again too. He was the one I tagged out on Twitter and was like, "Hey, are you shorting BCH?" And he just replied with 0. Well, are you shorting it to 0 or you have 0 shorts? Answer the goddamn question. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Well, that's a weird one then, because if people are starting to come back and sniffing around and trying to get involved, that's usually a good sign, because it means that whatever their agenda or whatever their thing, there must be something going on that they want to be involved in, right? If the worst sign for the chain is when everybody leaves and nobody says anything and people just disconnect and fuck off. But if they're all still hanging around, if there's still interest, there's obviously some kind of opportunity that they can see happening. So that would be my impression. I don't know. So here we are with the SmartBCH coins. The summary is the coins are still locked. And again, hopefully, if you believe Mark's version of events, he's trying to find some way to get enough sign-offs or whatever from the lawyers and the big creditors and whoever to just weasel out the coins back to the community, and then we can crack on with this and everybody can just forget about about the CoinFlex meltdown and just let him and Roger battle it out, and good luck to them. But I wouldn't rate that as highly likely at this stage. I hope it does. My fingers and toes are crossed that that's exactly what happens in a week's time, but I think it's probably unlikely. So that, yeah, whatever the SmartBCH Foundation is, that is a bad omen, having that appear on the scene as well too. And yeah, there wasn't really enough people backing up this Eric Wong guy to say that because it's possible that he was in Hong Kong, maybe he's a part of the Chinese part of the community more, and just people didn't really know him as much. But I didn't really see a lot of voices ringing out in support of him either. In fact, the opposite. I saw a lot of people. Who is this? Where's this guy come from? What's this about? All right, that's enough about that then. That's enough about the bridge and the coins. But that's the current state of affairs for everybody who was wondering where we're at. I asked you to refresh the slides.
I did.
I did. Did it not save?
Oh, okay.
All right, here we go. Okay, all right. There you go. The production disaster, the podcast as usual. So, the Mt. Gox coin release. This is just kind of the ironic thing, is that at the exact same time as all this is happening, the kind of Mt. Gox litigation or whatever, which has been grinding along for probably nearly a decade at this point. The collapse was in 2014, but some of the coins were at least stolen earlier than that anyway. So all these coins that have been in this recovered somewhere or another are perhaps preparing to get close to going back to, at least in some aspect of some respect. It's like a weird what's it called? Not a parody, but a weird counterpart to this CoinFlex drama that we're having right now. As you can see how this same thing happens over and over and over again when people don't learn. Not your keys, not your coins. Is that the Mt. Gox coins had pretty much a similar thing happen, and now there was like 850,000 bitcoins stolen in that originally, but whatever they've scraped together is 150,000 bitcoins, it seems, and those are the funds that are maybe going to be returned back to Mt. Gox creditors. Now, it's not entirely clear whether they're going to give people back this $150,000, 150,000 BTC, as well as the 150,000 BCH and BSV and whatever, or whether this article says, the prospect says, as Mt. Gox creditors choose how much money to receive in cash, Bitcoin, and Bitcoin Cash. So maybe they can't even get their Bitcoin SV or their eCash. And maybe they can choose to get all of their money in BCH and some in BTC. That's kind of weird as well, too. And it sort of comes down to, I would say on average, the unlocking of all of these coins has got to be bearish, especially for Bitcoin BTC, because their market cap is a lot higher, so these 150k BTC can do a lot more damage. But B, the people who are getting the money back are massively in the money on BTC, so a lot of them are going to want to just lock in those gains as fast as possible and move that money into some other assets. They're also, by default, the sort of early holders who are more likely to be sympathetic to BCH. And on top of that, the ratio is at nearly 200 to 1. So anybody, it only takes like 1% or 0.5% really of these holders to say, yep, let me sell my BTC and get BCH instead, to counteract any negative selling pressure, right? Even if 99.5% of them all dump their BCH, which I would say is unlikely, but even in that scenario, you only need 0.5% to be going the other way to even it out. And if more are going the other way, then it's really good for BCH. So do you have a take on this whole Mt. Gox thing? What do you think about these coins getting unlocked?
I don't really have much of, like, I'm just glad to see people, as long as it's taken, finally get some of their money back.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably some small consolation, but I guess the benefit is that they've basically been in forced hodl for 8 years or whatever. So even if they aren't getting back as many coins as they put in at the time, the fiat value is still probably way inflated over what they had.
I wonder
before,
if any
I
of
guess.
them are like BTC maximalists that are like, thank you, Gox, for making me hold those coins.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure anybody who is getting a payout is having a pretty good day. Again, just under the premise that something is better than nothing, right? So, yeah, I'm sure if you got back 5% of your coins or 10% of your coins, and you had, a couple $100 at that time, it's now probably a good amount of money. So yeah. Anyway, it just goes to show that the same thing that happened with CoinFlex happened with Mt. Gox, and it happens with a lot of exchanges. So yeah, once again, not your keys.
What
not your
year
coins.
did the Gox fiasco happen?
It was at the start of 2014 that it blew up. So it was
8
like
years later.
8 years later, yeah, 8 years, two cycles of enforced holding. And yeah, Jason is asking in the chat, it's not really clear. Are they getting back their unsplit? Because these coins were from before the split, so there would be BTC and BCH at stake, but it's not really clear either A, whether the people who've ended up with this money, whether they're aware of that, or they might have been moving around the coins in the meantime in the process of trying to, I don't know, collect up as Mark Carpellis is trying to make off with his millions. And, who knows how many times these have been moved or put in the hands of another court or whatever the hell has happened. And they've ended up with all the BTC and all the BCH, or they have or they haven't. It's impossible to know. And on top of that, it seems like there's some element to this deal where the creditors can choose to get like the logical thing would just be if however many coins you had on the exchange, you get that many BTC and that many BCH, because that's how it works when the coins split. But that's not necessarily the way that they're actually going to pay it out. They might say, oh, well, you can choose what ratio you want or something. I don't know. Maybe you get a fiat balance of this is how much your segment is worth, and give us an address for either BTC or BCH will pay it. I don't know how they're going to do it. But yeah, it kind of remains to be seen. The core point is that they're definitely not going to have more, like, because BCH would be the more likely ones to be lost if they were coins were being moved around and whatever, both because they were less valuable and also just because you had to more specifically split them. So it's more likely that, yeah, there's going to be selling pressure on BTC basically, as well as the fact that the increased value means there'll be more selling pressure. So actually seems like kind of might be sneakily a good thing for BCH. These coins get released. All right, next thing is on the topic of BTC. So the drama this week in the Bitcoin community has been an attempt to get rid of maximalism. So obviously with the price declining and store of value being proven to be a complete lie, as has been said many times on this show, as well as the stock to flow model, the 100K laser ray, Twitter profile, cult eyes, all of that stuff is all completely garbage, which has been said many times on the show. But it's now starting to dawn on the Bitcoin BTC crowd that it was all lies and it was all rubbish. And this has given them apparently some cause for introspection as the rats try to distance themselves from what is a toxic mess that they have been much derided for by the Bitcoin Cash community and by basically every cryptocurrency community. Ethereum's been in there, Vitalik's been getting in jabs. Everybody is just like, this is the most ridiculous, stupid thing, and the chickens are starting to come home to roost a little bit. So Nic Carter, who he says he isn't a Bitcoin maxi, but basically he has been pretty much adjacent to all that at the very least. He published a blog post called Setting the Record Straight, or a eulogy for Bitcoin maximalism, because his hedge fund or something bought up some stuff that was investing in different projects and not all of them were in Bitcoin. And so then some Bitcoin people did their usual thing, which is if you're not 100% Bitcoin, you're 100% against us. And they all flooded his Twitter with, bullshit. And he just got fed up with it. And so he said, look, I need to just clear up. I'm not a Bitcoin maximalist. I think maximalism is stupid, yada, yada, yada. And then, of course, everybody else started piling into the mix. So Peter McCormack was going with the angle. Can anyone clearly define what Bitcoin maximalism is? Yet another person who undoubtedly at some point will say, I wasn't really a Bitcoin maximalist. I like Monero. But even though, you know, let's be honest, mate, you spent enough time trashing other coins and hyping up the laser eyes and going where the gravy was good, that you know, whatever you say, it's clear that you made your bet and now you're lying in it. And the same with this, I don't know, this other guy, Porto, Bitcoin culture, burn it to the ground. He published this article basically saying the same thing that everybody's been saying that wasn't a Bitcoin maximalist, which is this is just toxic and stupid, and it just drives away people who are interested in cryptocurrency, and your little bro culture. It's not really welcoming to anyone from the outside, and so on and so forth, which was all the things that they laughed at Ethereum about, that Ethereum was attracting people who were just interested and just curious and just wanted to try it out and have fun and not be just in this cult, basically, this whole laser eyes cult of our way or the highway, and every other coin is a shit coin and just being essentially unfriendly. So yeah, Nic Carter also went on Bankless, so if anybody wants to see all the thoughts that he has on that, you can look up that episode. But basically, yeah, the main point to me was that he said, look, I feel like I'm the last rat off the sinking ship, which is a phrase I've specifically used on this show about this exact phenomenon on several occasions, which is once the balloon starts to deflate, everybody wants to get out of there before the music stops, before the musical chairs run out. How's that for mixed messages, mixed metaphors? So that's kind of where we're at with this, and it just comes to show that if something can't sustain itself, eventually it doesn't, and that when the prices are down, suddenly everybody is having to learn some hard lessons. So obviously for the BCH community, it's the whole CoinFlex situation. The BTC community, it's, wait, what have we done? We've turned this into a mess. And I guess there's some of them are starting to think, look, we need to turn this ship around. We need to repaint this whole thing. But I think that what they're going to discover is that once the rot sets in, it's a lot harder to dig out than you expect. That's the whole decentralization thing. It's hard to get something going in a certain direction, but once it's going, it's also very hard to stop it. I don't know. Do you feel any Schadenfreude out of this, or are you surprised it's happened this early or this late?
Well, hold on. I have a question that I should have asked a long time ago, and I don't mean like during the podcast. I mean like in my time in crypto. Who the hell is Nic Carter? Like, why does everyone know who he is except for me?
Well, I don't really know who he is, except that I know he's just been on a couple of podcasts. He's this guy. He runs this hedge fund, see, this is really the core of the issue, really, is that there's this kind of group of people who have rocketed up in influence in the cryptocurrency space by basically jumping on the laser eyes, Bitcoin, etc. bandwagon, right? So Peter McCormack, Nic Carter, Natalie Brunell, Saifedean Moose. There's a bunch of the other ones who were nowhere to be seen in the block size war. It's completely different to people like Vitalik Buterin or Eric Voorhees or Bruce Fenton or even even Tone Vase or Adam Back. They're in a separate category. They were involved. They were in the mix. They were having things happen. But just in this last 4 or 5 years, some of the people who came in and just saw their opportunity was, this is where the momentum is. They all got into that and cheering Bitcoin maximalism and so on and so forth. And they gained a very large profile out of it. And one of them has been this guy, Nic Carter, who, again, you can read his takes and he would say, no, I was never about that. He made some kind of coin metrics site, I think, initially. And so he says, look, all the coins were on there. So that meant I was neutral to everything. But it doesn't matter if, like, he was on Lex Friedman and he basically just said, called out BCH a bit and was kind of on the BTC side of all that, telling him how the block size wars happened and all this kind of stuff, right? And it's just, now that the honey is no longer there in the Bitcoin maximalism pot, with the prices declining and all of the lies and hype vanishing, suddenly you got to move on to better pastures, right? So your pastures, so you got to make up with some of the shit coiners and some of the altcoiners. Suddenly you got to be their best bud now that the momentum has moved, right?
Okay, so he's not a developer or anything.
He's not a developer. He runs some kind of hedge fund investing. He's a bit of a financey type guy.
Interesting. I'm pretty sure my only like long form exposure to him was him on the Lex Friedman podcast, and he seemed, sophisticated enough that I expected him to be a developer. But if he's just some dude with money, I don't.
Well, it was one of the more reasonable ones. I mean, on the spectrum, right? It is true that he did have a more considered view, and he probably wasn't being as aggressive and toxic and stuff as the rest of the kind of vibe is. And it is true that there's a lot of this toxicity and whatever is kind of bound up in this online narratives that when you go and meet people face to face, it's much less of an issue. It is still partly an issue, which is interesting, but it's much more confined, because in a real scenario, it's much harder to maintain that kind of in-group, out-group and mob mentality. So in reality, the people who are the most laserized, well, they have laserized meetups and whatever, but the only people who go are laserized people, so they can all just be shut off separately. If you go to any sort of crypto neutral stuff, it's pretty hard to sustain I'm a toxic maximalist in that environment, face to face with real people, right? So, which we've talked about on this show a lot before, actually. But do you think this is this going to work? Do you think there can be a BTC rebranding of, now we're all the happy accepting guys, please come back to Bitcoin, we're just the cool original coin?
Well, they've
etc.
They've crafted some narratives that they're gonna have to either follow up on or like combat with new narratives. The thing that comes to mind primarily is that toxic maximalism is the immune system to Bitcoin, right? So, hey, if there's no more maximalists left, do you have cancer?
That's a good line. Maybe we need to start a bit of a FUD campaign on them to drive the stake home. I don't know, but I mean, just to me, obviously from the BCH perspective, it's like, is BCH going to get any credit at all for avoiding all this delusion completely in the first place? Probably not. Nobody's going to think, oh, wait a second. Actually, the Bitcoin Cash community, they called that out literally from the very start and dodged all of it. Maybe they were onto something there. I think it's going to be more efforts to sort of rehabilitate the BTC side, because they did make, they made their money out of it. So everybody's still able to believe we were onto the right thing. And it was funny because in this attempt to sort of rewrite things a little bit, there's these, it still comes up that this guy, Bitcoin Culture Burn It to the Ground, that he wrote there, he says something along the lines of, Bitcoin has fought off massive attacks like the block size wars, and that required intolerance and da. But now it's not defending us against anything. It was needed then, but now it's not, which is kind of like, no, no, it wasn't needed then. You were still just being assholes then. And Bitcoin Cash wasn't an attack on Bitcoin. It just was Bitcoin. And you just kicked out all of the peer-to-peer cash advocates in your pursuit of, Fedcoin, right? So, but they do now they have to try and maintain this cognitive dissonance if they unwind all this, no, we're not going to be the toxic maximalists anymore, because they're just going to splinter their own community, partly because now they've just ingrained it in so many people that if the whole laserized thing was not a thing, are people just going to be quietly taking the L and turning off their laser eyes, or is part of them are going to double down and be even more at odds with the ones who want to be more accepting and more open to ideas? And how does this all play into network governance anyway? Because it doesn't make a big difference whether or not all this Twitter laser eyes is going on, when if it comes down to somebody wants to make a change to the protocol and they instantly get swamped with, no, you can't do that, we're immutable, blah, blah, blah. You haven't got anywhere. Like, it's still a mess, basically, right?
Yeah, I almost wonder long term if it's going to be like this kind of pendulum thing where, let's suppose that, and this is where there's that whole, well, chain death spiral thing. Yeah, okay, but just entertain my idea for a second. Let's suppose that BCH flips BTC, right? And we get this massive miner hash power migration, let's say. At one point, or do you think there'll be a certain collective of BTC folks that are like, no, now we really truly are defending the real Bitcoin, much like, early BCH folks were immediately after the fork. And will that eventually get some rally? I think I would have a harder time getting any rally behind it because of the fundamentals, but I almost wonder if we'd have the opportunity for that weird pendulum behavior where it's like BCH flips BTC, then BTC flips BCH, because there's always someone trying to make money off the underdog.
Well, I don't really think so, because in a scenario where BCH does a flippening, I think that's gonna be it for BTC. Like, what's gonna hold it together? Like, at the moment, they have the brand, they have the liquidity, they have the credibility or whatever. But in a scenario where BCH has more liquidity than BTC, it's just going to keep sucking away all their liquidity. Why would you keep trading with, you're just going to be surrounded by opportunities of people that are trading in BCH, because that's the whole point. We want to expand the transactions and whatever. And the people who are left on the BTC side are going to be wrecked, basically, because what would they have to offer in a scenario where they would need to catch up? Like, all this, firstly, it would be like, okay, what are we going to have our 1 megabyte coin? Like, why would anybody need to trade on that when they could just do the same thing on BCH? That's the first point. And the second point is all this, oh, we're going to build Lightning and well, the clock's basically run out for that if we're just powering off ahead, trying to scrape together Lightning. Everyone will be like, nobody cares anymore. Or just, why don't you just put Lightning Network on BCH if it's if you need it? That will kind of play into it. And the other thing to remember is if there is a flippening, the opposite of what has already happened is also going to happen, where the BTC people got a huge injection of capital and the BCH people got wrecked. And so the resource imbalance was absolutely enormous. But if there is a flippening, well, BCH is everyone who's buying CoinFlex wrecked coins right now is going to be balling, and everybody who was laser eyes and hodling, they're all going to be, explaining to their wives and children why they're all broke, and they're going to have bigger problems to fight than fight the BCH community if that happens.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but one kind of counter argument, but this isn't really an argument. The market doesn't give a goddamn about fundamentals. So why would they trade on 1 megabyte BTC blocks? Well, because it's fucking there. That's it. That's there's 3,000 at least coins, right? And 95% of them probably don't need to exist. Why do people trade? Because they're there, unfortunately.
No, people will still trade Bitcoin BTC. Don't get me wrong. It's not like the chain is going to completely stop and everything will die and there will be no transactions at all. It will just be, well, it will be, I want to say kind of like Bitcoin SV is now, or like eCash is now, or some people would say like BCH is now. I think that's different. But of course, I think that, right? Obviously, that's my perspective. But it will be like there'll be a couple of little true believers in their little corner, and they will have their little, BTC 1 megabyte blocks. We've still got the orange Bitcoin. We're still the real Bitcoin. Yeah, I agree. There will be that. But if BCH can win, can get a flippening, there's no coming back from that. There's no BTC re-flippening. How the hell would that ever happen? That was the point. If BCH had won the block size war, there wouldn't have been a BTC. It would have been over. See you later, guys. The only reason that there is a whole split and everything in the first place is because like Bitcoin didn't take over. If BCH is in the driving seat, it's going to be like, that's what the show's about. It's on the path to global reserve currency. It's just going to start sucking up everything. There's going to be so much hype and so much excitement, and the community is just going to keep rolling at that. Like, it's just going to be exploding in growth. There will be no catching up. Like, can you imagine St. Martin's happening in like 6 countries at once with like the price hype rising? That would just be, see you later. Like, orange coiners just lost 90% of your money, and you obviously fucked it up. You had your chance, and now nobody cares.
Do you think that like if BCH did get that BTC ticker, I think the BTC like diehards would still, like, they'd be that minority fork. But do you think it'd be like, I don't know, Bitcoin Classic, just 1 megabyte blocks like Satoshi intended?
Yeah, exactly. That's what it's going to be. Of course that's going to be their story. We're not going to get the ticker back. Well, maybe we would get the ticker back. I don't know. But I don't think we kind of want the ticker back. In any flippening scenario I can imagine, we would probably keep, we would say, let's keep the green logo and let's keep the BCH ticker and just give us back Bitcoin. Just call us Bitcoin. And these guys can be called Bitcoin Core or Bitcoin Classic or Bitcoin Cripple, whatever, or Bitcoin Blockstream, whatever the hell they want to call their coin, they can call it whatever they want. But it will. I don't think the exchanges are going to be like, you guys are Bitcoin. Here's the BTC ticker back. I don't think we'd even want to argue because we would already have all the liquidity and all the exchanges and all the integrations and all the branding and everything already on the BCH thing, and then we can just be Bitcoin, but like Bitcoin Cash, like, which is kind of how we're trying to create it now. But just more of the world, like the exchange, whatever, would recognize that. That's how I can see it playing out.
Yeah, just for clarity, because I see in some of the comments too. I don't know if I said it out loud, but in my head at least, I was thinking like back in the heart of the flippening war, like that 2017 spicy battle. There was definitely talk about BCH getting that BTC ticker. And the conversation was really like, the ticker is just a setting on an exchange. Like, they can swap a ticker out whenever they want. It might cause mass confusion, but it is what
that's right. It could have happened. And at that time, it would have been very helpful if that had happened. And the reason was, it's not actually the ticker itself. It's not the 3 letters BTC that are critical that everyone cares about. What mattered was the liquidity. What mattered was that all the exchanges, that was the number 1 coin that showed up at the top of every list, Bitcoin, BTC with the orange symbol. That package and all the marketing assets, all of the all the coin liquidity, all of the trading pairs. Like, at that time, all the coins were trading against BTC, and they weren't necessarily even trading against fiat or against each other or whatever. But the point is, so the BCH community has had to redo all that work from scratch. We've had to come up with the new marketing materials through the messy, decentralized process. We had to, get exchanges on board and so on and so forth. But now I think the opposite is starting to happen. Now that we've reestablished all of that stuff from a marketing point of view, from an exchange point of view, now that, because the tech is diverging further and further over time, as is the fates of the coins and everything like that. So by the time we have the momentum and things are going great, we're not going to want any of their whatever. Like, the exchanges more and more have to specifically run a BCH node and pay attention to the BCH upgrade cycle, and they can't just like run a BTC one and then okay, BCH is basically like a free add-on. But that's a good thing because it cuts both ways, which is that if the BTC people start, if they don't want to support, if we're the better chain that everybody's getting excited about, then what's going to be the point of having to fuck around separately for BTC basically? They can keep the baggage. Exactly. That's exactly right. They can keep the baggage that they've created for themselves, which was the whole point, which is exactly what this whole maximalism thing is about. Jay Diz asks, won't their difficulty adjustment will wreck them from a technological standpoint if the flip would happen fast enough? And that's true. Yes, that's I think that's what Jett was alluding at before when he said setting aside like a sudden flippening. Yes, if the BCH price started rocketing up, then it can create a self-fulfilling prophecy where price goes up, hash rate goes up, momentum goes up, marketing goes up, community morale goes up, and at the same time that sucks away hash power from BTC. So whenever they, because their difficulty only adjusts every 2 weeks, if they lose like 20% of their hash power, that means they're 20% further from the difficulty adjustment, which let's say that's another 2 days. Well, then that gives another 2 days for the momentum to go into BCH's favor, which could get it further ahead. And it can just happen like that. Meanwhile, fees would be going nuts on BTC because of the congestion and the backlog of the difficulty slowing down, as well as obviously people trying to dump out their coins and get into BCH, and they just melt down. And at a certain point, it's just fucking over as their coin just plummets in value as the last ones out of the fire exit just get crushed, which is the whole point because there's only like 1 million BCH left and there's 21 million or 19 million BTC right now. So only 1 in 19 people can cash out in this kind of scenario. Even less because the entire BCH community would immediately diamond hands and start probably even buying up a few extra coins. This is not even to mention every other community, Ethereum or every other coin community just being like, oh, this is the most BCH hopium, of all time. But that, that's a possible scenario at some point if we can get the momentum back. All right. I think that's it for that topic then.
Yeah.
Bit of a side tangent.
I'm here for it either way.
There's your dose of BCH hope to offset all of this CoinFlex and bullshit. Like, just put that in the past and like let's get back on track towards this whole flippening. Right. So BTC have got their problems with maximalism. You know who else has problems? Peter Schiff. On the next slide. Oh, there we go. It just took a second to update. Peter Schiff has just rugged his own customers. So this week, July the 3rd, same day as these hangouts, which is, I guess, why I missed it immediately, but I did catch up with it later. Peter Schiff posted on Twitter, despite no evidence of crimes, Puerto Rico regulators closed my bank anyway for net capital issues, rather than allow a sale to a highly qualified buyer promising to inject capital far in excess of regulatory minimums. As a result, accounts are frozen and customers may lose money. The reason regulators gave for turning down the sale is that post-sale, I would own 4% of the company buying the bank. They said that due to the bad press about me, they did not want me owning 4% of a bank, even though they know firsthand the allegations in the media are false. They never let me know they objected. I found out in C&D order, cease and desist order, to shut down the bank. Had they ever told the 4% stake was a problem, I would have restructured the deal. I just wanted out. I had to put in 7 million in the last 2 years to cover operating losses due to bad press. Also, it costs a fortune to run a small bank. That's why I never really made any money. The compliance costs are outrageous. End quote. So this is just the ultimate, like, we were right. This post got tweeted and commented on by every single Bitcoiner under the sun, and including me, and rightly so, because this is just the ultimate reaping what you sow. Peter Schiff, who has spent the last bloody 10 years telling everybody that Bitcoin is worthless, there's no point to it, and everybody, hundreds, thousands of people probably that have tried to get through to him, can you not imagine any scenario where it might be useful to have an account which could not be frozen, or shut down or, ending up in grief and whatever. And he's been able to say, well, look at these people getting wrecked in Bitcoin. They're losing their funds. They got wrecked in Mt. Gox or in CoinFlex or whatever the exchange of the week is. You guys have got it wrong the whole time. Well, the chickens have come home to roost, and he has just wrecked his own bank and he's rug pulled his own customers unintentionally. And he's been ruined in the most classic way by the regulators, who are the ones that the Bitcoin BTC people are always, well, the crypto community generally is always trying to kind of push back on or, handle problems with. And he's been having a great time laughing about that, even though he should be on our team with the whole libertarian, free market kind of stuff. And now it's happened to him. So it reminds me of that famous poem, first they came for the artists or whatever, and then at the end they came for me and there was no one left to speak up. Well, this is Peter Schiff. Like, it was first they came for the Bitcoiners and he hung us out to dry, and now the sword has come around to him and the banks and who knows whether or not this was like warranted or justified or under the strict letter of the law or whatever. It doesn't even matter if he thinks it's really unjust or unfair, because that's the whole point. We would try and explain, look, the government's not going to play by the rules with you. And he didn't listen to us, that you got to build systems resilient to that. And now he's wrecked. Not to mention the fact that he says, look, I had to put in 7 million in the last 2 years to cover the operating losses. And it's like, well, you're just after all this hype about, I'm a great capitalist and whatever. Well, it turns out he was running his own operations at a loss. And so maybe you're not such a great entrepreneur after all, Peter Schiff. And it's pretty ridiculous that after he's been shilling his Euro-packed bank and all that as the greatest thing, that people should look into instead of Bitcoin. Well, it turns out he was just funding it basically as a marketing expense the whole time. So, all right. This is a pretty big win for the crypto advocates out there, I'd say. What do you think? Does this make you laugh?
I didn't quite understand what the hell was going on when I first saw this. So this isn't like, the bank found out I used crypto and they froze my account. This is, he owned a bank, didn't have enough money to, like, what's this, like, close my bank for net capital issues? What the hell does that mean?
Well, that's so what happens is, so Peter Schiff has this bank, right? Euro Pacific Capital or something like that, right? And he's the CEO and the owner, and he started it all up, however many years ago, right? He said he put 7 million in the last 2 years, but he's been running it for longer than that. He's been around for a while. And so basically his idea was, he hates the banks, right? Maybe I should have explained all this before the rant, but anyway, he hates the banks, same as crypto people, but he also hates crypto. So his solution was his crummy middle ground of, I'm going to be the bank. I'm going to make a bank that's not like a crypto bank, or not like Coinbase, or not like a crypto thing of any description, or a crypto wallet or whatever. No, instead, and I also hate the regular fractional reserve bank. So instead, he was going to make his own bank, which was going to run in the way that he thought a bank should be run, right? With full reserves and with, the ability to buy gold bullion and silver and, like, whatever other features, I don't know, stock trading and like whatever stuff they had going on, right? Just the Peter Schiff version of how banking should be. Of course, this was a losing strategy, which everybody in crypto has tried to tell him for the 1,000,001 times, because you can't beat the banks at their own game. The reason the banks operate the way they do is because they've built the whole system around that. So he's trying to make his, like, rebel bank was obviously stupid, right? If you're gonna beat the banks, you can't be bringing a sword to a gunfight, right? you're gonna have to show up with a nuclear bomb, which is exactly what the approach crypto is taking, and which he hates and he doesn't understand. So he had this bank, right? And he had a few depositors and whatever. But what he said was that he's now being shut down for not having enough money backing up the bank. but he actually has all of the customers' money. Like, according to him, there's no scam. It's not like CoinFlex and some of the money's gone or they've got to liquidate. No, apparently it's all good, at least according to him, and I don't think he's lying. All that's happened is that the regulators have had it out for him, and so they found a provision or a whatever, a way to screw him, and they've done it. And
Gotcha.
he is upset about it because obviously, like he's saying, if he got told in advance that the 4% stake was the problem, you know, maybe he would have done it some other way. All he wants to do is just get rid of the bank and give everyone back their money and close it down. But it's not that simple, because he's been running his little rebel bank and somebody's finally found a way to screw him for it. And so they've done it and they've shut down his thing. And now his customers who have all their money there are going to get rugged as a result of him getting wrecked by the regulators. So it's just the ultimate ironic situation, really.
I think it's kind of ironic to laugh at it, considering the CoinFlex situation. But
Yeah.
I do enjoy that it's happening to him, knowing this story.
Yeah. Well, I think everybody just got a bit of, this is a bit of a win for crypto people. You sort of got to. Again, this is the same as what I was saying before about the CoinFlex stuff. Sometimes, okay, it sucks for Peter Schiff, sucks for any of his depositors. All right, but sometimes you got to take a win where you can get it, you know. And this, just after so much hatred for Peter Schiff, it's just like Spencer Schiff. I don't know if he's tweeted recently. Let me just quickly check that, because where was he? This is just the ultimate dunk of all time. His dad telling him that crypto's a scam and blah blah blah, and now he's just looks like he didn't tweet anything about it. Maybe he's just
Is Spencer his kid?
His son, yeah. Spencer's his son, who's a big laser eyes BTC guy. And he's been arguing back and forth with him on Twitter. I did an episode about it. It was episode 15, I think, with Ryan Giffen, and we went through like it's such a classic, you know, father son.
Yeah, Thanksgiving's got to
right?
be fun.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, definitely. And they've always been, you know, they're always joking about it and whatever. And I mean, it's actually pretty genius, I think, from Peter's side, especially because I think Spencer is a bit sort of naive in the sense that he's in a great position. Like, his dad is doing him a huge solid, because his dad can say Bitcoin's shit and I hate all this stuff. You're just a clueless like idiot. And then Spencer can argue back at him, and that instantly boosts Spencer's engagement through the roof and gets him all these followers and clout and whatever. And so Peter's just in a no-lose situation, because either Bitcoin gets wrecked, in which case he can say, look, you're my son and you're an idiot, and I tried to tell you, like, you learned some valuable lessons. Welcome to the real world. Or Bitcoin kicks off in some, you know, world that he can't really perceive, but maybe it does. And then he's just done his job as a dad. He's got his kids sorted. They're rich. They've got clout. He passed on the heritage, and he did it in a way that made sense to the new generation. And like, that's good. He's sorted it. Again, I don't know what their relationship is like. You know, maybe Spencer and him, you know, have a great chat behind the scenes, and Peter says, look, if we just stir up a bit of drama, like you're getting so. But from my reading of it, from what I've seen of Spencer's posts, it is more like Spencer just is a bit unaware that his dad is doing him a huge favor in this way. I'm sure Peter realizes that that's what's happening, but I don't think Spencer really is clued into that part of it.
I think I did watch that episode, like as you're saying it.
Yeah. Long time ago. It was the first episode with Ryan Giffen as well. And anybody, who wants to go back and listen to that was killer episode. One of the great episodes of the podcast, I think. In my my humble opinion, it was it was even one of my favorites that I picked from that year one of the podcast. So yeah, definitely a good one to check. And we talked about a lot. That was also Ryan, the first time Ryan and I had talked, and so he had a lot of questions about BCH and about this and that that I was able to answer for him. So that might be a good one. That it's not like a welcome to crypto episode. It's not like, oh, this is how Bitcoin works and this is but it's more like a, it's like intermediate level, like Bitcoin Cash. It's like, okay, you've got the fundamentals and now you need the next like block of like knowledge. A lot of that's in there as well too. So yeah, maybe check that out if you're interested. Right. So all this is to say that this episode just goes to show that every community is having their own problems. BCH with CoinFlex and how we're handling that, Bitcoin BTC with its culture, Peter Schiff with the banks. It's a rocky marketplace, right? And maybe it's like, those in glass houses shouldn't throw stones kind of an idea, right? There certainly seems everybody trying to figure out their way around the financial mess we're in is coming up with their own issues in their own approach. Yeah, that was kind of the theme I wanted to hit on for this episode, I guess.
We need a slogan. Like, we need to go from the we're all gonna make it or not gonna make it to we're all getting rugged.
We're all getting rugged. I don't know if Peter's gonna jump on. It's not really as motivational. Well, it's certainly not as, it's anti-hype. That's what it is. We're all getting rugged. The Bitcoin Cash community. Come and join us and get rugged too. Maybe there's a way we can make it rhyme. We're all getting rugged. Well, wagger. I don't know. Rugs for days. RFD. I don't know. We are the resistance. Oh, that's not a bad one. Get your new rugs. Bitcoin Jason. Maybe we need it. We need a meme with just one of those doorway welcome mats with a BCH and welcome and then a BCH on it, Welcome to BCH. Here's your free rug. I think that could be a good one. We could make that as a meme.
Or like I have like a scene working out in my head, but like I don't know, there's probably okay, I'm gonna say this, and if anyone in the audience like knows of the movie that is in my head that I can't name,
think the name of, yeah,
clip it. Okay, so someone walks in, sits down at like a kitchen, but it has one of those like table liner, like I don't know, like a picnic table cover thing,
Yeah.
And like they're like, starting to get into the meal, they're getting familiar, the food or whatever is Bitcoin Cash, and then just as they go to like take a bite of the dessert, and that's peer-to-peer cash, the whole thing just gets rubbed. But not like a cool magician, like, oh, everything's there. No, it gets obliterated.
It smashes onto everything. Okay, all right. Is that from I don't recognize that scene, if that's from a famous movie or something, but I can imagine it being in some kind of tablecloth ball. I like my simple idea of just having the rug, because everyone knows those welcome mats, right?
Yeah,
they're always kind of like gray and like a bit like, we used to have one at my mum's house, and it was like this like prickly, like you didn't even want to step on it, to be honest. If you had socks on, you were already like, this is a nightmare. I'd rather not be here. It's just going to poke me in the foot, let alone if you're in bare feet. If you went out to put out the rubbish or something, just coming back in and this prickly mess that just, it's going to cut your feet open basically. It says welcome on it, and then yeah, just welcome, and the BCH, welcome to BCH, here's your free rug. Everyone gets a free rug. Every child wins a prize. All right. Speaking of that, we got meme of the week. Maybe bonus there. You got a bonus meme creation as well too. This one comes from Kallisti on BCH Telegram, who did this meme format where there's the girl in black and white who's kind of shouting out, and she says, "Babe, please stop buying the dip. Rent is due." And then it's usually that other guy with the blonde sort of hair that is on the other half of this, I think. But in this one, it's randomly some kind of animal type of
It's a bull,
guy.
isn't it?
It's a bull, I guess. I get. Okay, I totally didn't get that. Anyway, it's a bull wearing green. Who says deploying more capital, steady lads. So he's obviously not interested in his girlfriend's pleas to pay the rent, and instead he's on that Do Kwon life. Steady lads was the famous words of Do Kwon right before he rugged everyone some more, basically. So anyway, this made me laugh. It's just kind of like it's a quality like copium meme. It's like, yeah, the price is low, so it might be a great time to get in, but we might all just get rugged again. Maybe CoinFlex is still going to liquidate a bunch of coins. Maybe there's some other bullshit that we haven't expected. So I don't know, this one just made me laugh.
Okay, I'm trying to like do the math on like what price point would I be able to get 100 BCH and not be like broke as shit and also risk the next like 3 years of my life, right? I haven't really thought about it, but I think if we break like $50, which I feel like would be difficult to do, but if we do that, it's possible.
Get in there, get in the triple digits.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny. I mean, when you were saying before about the whales, that's kind of what it needs to come down to. Really, is just everybody has been like the BTC community. They don't really do that. They don't really go around and go, oh, quick, we need some whales to save us. Like, why don't whales fund our projects, or why don't this or that? It's like, no, you just got to be, the community needs to be the whales. And that's the whole point. As time goes on, as coins spread out, as the community grows with more and more people involved in it, there's more and more people who just have their own stash and are just sorted, and then that's it. And if we're all serious about this project and whatever, then yeah, now's the time. Everybody's got to like, okay, not financial advice. Don't somebody clip this to me and say, okay, you wrecked us all. Like, same stuff as I've said on every other show, like dollar cost average in, watch that bear market survival episode, have a stash of fiat, work on your career, like everything we've already said 100 times. But basically, in 3 to 5 years' time, the community now, the ones who are serious on the idea of P2P cash and stuff, need to be the ones with the whales, so that all these hundreds of thousands of BCH getting liquidated by a couple of centralized exchanges or whatever, pots or whatever. No, it needs to get in the hands of the community. And the way to do that is to buy them up and withdraw them, put them in cold storage, and not be, and as well, obviously be using it and stuff, all the stuff you usually do with BCH, you know, spreading the message of P2P cash, but making sure you've got a bit of a stack one way or another that you can afford to lose, but you can also afford to just let it sit and get rich and not just sell it out. Once you get a 5x, instead of just selling it all out and going on holiday, maybe just chill on it until it 50x's, and then congrats, we are the whales. That's kind of the idea anyway. Right, that's it for meme of the week. We've got message to the community. Do you have something you want to say here, or I can think of something?
My brain is not working well enough today, so
right,
I'll
fair
give you
enough.
that responsibility.
Right. Yeah, I think one of the reasons that I made this topic for this week about the BTC maximalism and all of that is because you can kind of see how fast the story can shift, basically. Is that 2 weeks ago, maximalism was the greatest thing, and everybody was having a grand old time being their laser eyes and whatever. And if you rewind back to not the Bitcoin conference 2022, but the Bitcoin conference 2021, you had Max Kaiser screaming on stage that fuck Elon, and El Salvador was announcing that it was going to be their national currency or whatever. It was going to be allowed. And it was like the euphoria was at all-time highs. And we did a podcast episode, and I was saying, this is peak euphoria. This is exactly what it looks like. And that's exactly what it was. So a year later, the second Bitcoin conference, well, suddenly a lot of the hype had gone out of the bubble. A lot of the balloon was busy deflating. Not completely, but a lot of it had sort of gone up. So there's kind of this gradually then suddenly moment. And now with a bit more price declines, it's not really working out in El Salvador. Nobody's excited about that. And it was funny because Nic Carter said, was posting about, okay, you know, I'm not a maximalist or whatever. Samson Mao, arch villain of this whole thing, got in the mix with him. And you know what Nick said back? He said, how's that Bitcoin nation state adoption going? Still 0 for 0? Yeah, there you go. Thought so, right? So it's just getting called out on his bullshit. Samson Mao, oh, I've got my El Salvador. We're going to do better than Roger Ver and his BCH nutters in same. Well, actually, maybe not. You might want to just be checking the scorecard, mate, because I mean, not that St. Martin has kicked off and it's taken over the world just yet, but it seems to be kind of just moving in the right direction quietly behind the scenes. So they're having hearings being like, what's going on here? It's kicking off. Whereas El Salvador, the opposite has happened. Nayib Bukele's wrecked a bunch of his money on BTC gamble. That's down. His whole country's in gang violence, that he's busy. He skipped out on the Bitcoin conference, and he's just generally said his volcano bonds, that just completely didn't happen. And it's not coming together. So my point is, yeah, it's a gradually then suddenly with narrative shift. So it's gradually gone from we're taking over the world, laser eyes is the best, to okay, I don't know about this, bit of a bear market, etc., to now suddenly maximalism is bad. What were we doing this whole time? I wasn't a maximalist. You weren't a maximalist. Everybody trying to be, I'm not a maximalist. I wasn't being toxic. I wasn't spreading any of this. Suddenly altcoins are looking back on the menu. And in that same way, BCH's day is going to come when the narrative, it's just like we're already at the end of the story, but we're just waiting for everybody else to kind of catch up. And that's going to happen, but it's just this slow bleeding of okay, maximalism had its time. All the altcoins have been doing really well, but it's just like I've said before, it's just a marathon run. All we have to do is just stay in the race, and eventually we keep building, keep making better apps, keep spreading adoption, stick to P2P cash, keep teaching people, not your keys, not your coins, keep having uncensored, real discussions. And that was something that was really great to see on the BCH Hangouts, was after Doug Polk got in the mix with Daniel and whatever, there was all this like chat, and obviously it's a bad situation, but it was still good to see the community having those conversations and really having it out. And I know that some people were like, look, we had our opportunity to shield BCH. Why are we now turning it into this, a real negative, not so negative, but this discussions about, the specifics of who's to blame and whatever. That's not the point. Well, the fact of the matter is people are going to have those discussions somewhere. And I'd rather that it be in the BCH community, and we don't turn into trying to censor things and ban stuff that's inconvenient or whatever, because firstly, it drives engagement. People get excited and interested. If people are interested, let them talk. Like that's not gonna, if our problem is people talking, we're already doing something wrong. So yeah, anyway, the narrative's going to change fast. That's really what it all comes down to. And so BCH just needs to stay in the lane, just keep working it through. And when the narrative switches to, maybe these BCH people, they had a point. When it comes to that, it will happen. It will take longer to get there than any of us think, but it will also happen faster. Once the switch starts, it will happen faster than any of us think, in the exact same way that it's been in under 2 weeks. The whole Bitcoin BTC maximalism stuff is just turned into a disaster. So yeah, that's my message to the community. All right, let's see, any in the chat? Yeah, BTC fake merchant adoption. yeah Bitcoin, exactly. They've got fake merchants, and eventually you can't fake enough merchant videos. So that's it. Keep getting real merchants on
Oh.
board. Okay. Yeah.
Actually, I don't know what I was thinking about this before we got to the message of the community slide, and then I blanked out completely. Okay, I would love to see like a day in the life vlog, like boring vlog style, generic YouTuber vlog of someone in St. Kitts, and they're like,
Yes.
if you want to go to a library or you want to get lunch or go to a car wash or whatever the case may be, here's how you can do it with Bitcoin Cash. Or even more exciting, I think, would be to find, I don't know if
Find
there's
someone who wasn't involved. And
yeah,
be
like
"Hey,
a
come
random
along with me."
tourist
Yeah.
who just decided to go to St. Kitts or St. Martin, and then being like, whoa, there's all this like Bitcoin Cash adoption here. I want to try this out, and then go into an ATM, and then, you know, going through all those steps. Maybe
Yeah.
someone should get a hold of ICE.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. Hopefully-
/someone.
Bitcoin Jason, I have that video. Okay, well,
Sick.
send us in with a link or whatever, because yeah, that would be super cool, and yeah, that would be amazing. I think that's another thing that BCH has done kind of a poor sort of a poor job of, is that it's the opposite of BTC. They have done not much good onboarding, but they've done a great job making a lot of noise and like FUD about it, basically, like with El Salvador. We've done the opposite. We've done probably pretty good onboarding, but then we haven't just hit it right on terms of like some slick things that really like, wow, BCH is really happening. I mean, there's been a little, Mark Falzon has done some good content in that direction as well too. When you said about that video of Ryan Giffen, he did his video that I talked about on the show a while ago. I went to St. Kitts and I found this kind of crypto adoption center, and that was that kind of video. Okay, here's me going around the island and I found this and this in BCH. You know, that was pretty cool. But if we can find a way to just, get a snappy version of that, like with an unaware tourist who's just, hey, have you seen the BCH signs everywhere? Yeah. Do you want to know what that's about? You know, it's this decentralized community, blah, blah, blah. I'm part of it. It's not from a company. I'm not trying to shill you, all this bullshit. Like, just, do you mind if we follow you around for a day? Look, we can help you get set up, etc. And if you made that into something, and then just, we could make that go viral, or get, especially like we've seen before with Mark Cuban, where he was just suddenly like, hey, what about Bitcoin Cash in the Caribbean? That's just crushing it. So don't tell me that Bitcoin BTC is the bee's knees, because clearly not everyone agrees. If that's the kind of video that somebody who we just wouldn't expect with 100,000 followers just sees that and thinks, wow, that's what it looks like. That's it happening. So yeah, if somebody can find that or make that or whatever, that would be awesome. All right, cool. Well, that will basically do it for here we go. Jason's got this. He's just linked us to this video. Let's have a look. Maybe we can play it live on stream. Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
Cool. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it, but
That's cool. I'll listen to it.
How you doing?
I just met Bruno at the Puma here, and he was talking that he bought his first Bitcoin Cash the other day.
Exactly. First one, under $100. And I was talking to Jason here, first time, just met him, and how his business here, his car, Bitcoin Cash, everything, influenced me to buy my first Bitcoin Cash. Because here in Townsville, I could see that they have a use case. And I was like, I'm going to buy it. I'm going to start to accumulate now that we are at this bottom here. And I was sharing with a friend of mine back in Adelaide in South Australia. I was, I always wanted to have my first Bitcoin Cash. And when I traveled here to Townsville, I saw his business here and I said, now is the time. It's like a sign. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Very excited.
Bruno, do you have a YouTube channel?
Not a YouTube channel, but yeah, I work with crypto and projects and etc. And we have a few friends over there in South Australia. So yeah, we always try to be in the community where you are. We try to meet up people and talk about crypto and building things, So we are more like builders, developers. But we do love to,
I might be able to get you a job actually, where you can be independent, but you can do your programming and you get royalties on your program. Awesome. So different applications, right? But you've got intellectual rights over there, and so you can reuse the same code and get paid for it. So
I love it. Yeah.
Meet me at the meetup tonight and I'll introduce you to some people.
Definitely.
So guys, this is the importance of merchant adoption. Bruno came here, he's from out of state, saw these Bitcoin Cash stickers, saw the car, and thought, I'm going to get Bitcoin Cash. It's a cryptocurrency that's not just limited mintage where you can build your wealth from, but you can actually use it. So
Definitely. I remember a few weeks ago I went to the pub here, beachfront, and then I saw the Bitcoin Cash sticker there. And I said, see, that's the real use case. So that's another thing that encouraged me to buy my first Bitcoin Cash and see everything. And then I saw Jason's car here, and I said, now is the time to talk to him.
We've got hotel accommodation at the Oasis. All your meals, all your accommodation, Bitcoin Cash, 100%.
Wow.
I live here 100% on Bitcoin Cash.
Wow.
Everything.
Wow. That's beautiful.
I'm debanked.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well done. I'll get there one day. Still learning a lot, of course, but hearing that from you, it's beautiful. Yeah.
So I'm going to teach Bruno our mantra, right? If you hold Bitcoin Cash, you are, I am, we're all Satoshi. Let's do our part. Take care, guys.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Love
it. Thank you very much.
That video was sick.
There we go. Ask and you shall receive, mate. There we go. We're already moving in the right direction there. Jason, that was super sick. Let's that would be a cool little series if we could get a series of Bruno buys his first coffee with BCH and Bruno or something like that. You know, I'm sure we can iterate and expand on that format, but that's definitely the right kind of thing. And we need to find some ways to promulgate and spread those kind of videos around. Because that's definitely the right idea. Unscripted. Yeah, exactly. And people can pick up on that. You know, it is definitely, you can tell that it's genuine, that he was saying like, yeah, and then I saw the stickers and everything. It's like, obviously, so you can script someone to say that, but people have a good bullshit detector. They can know if it's just empty hype, basically. But you got to film in horizontal mode. None of these vertical videos. It's hard to watch.
Well, it's
real hard to watch.
That's arguable because it depends on the platform, right? Like that'd be fine on Instagram or TikTok or any of that, but YouTube's still
I guess
on
maybe
that.
it was getting reposted. But anyway, that's the kind of thing. Yeah, let's get some of that going, and especially if we can have some of those from Townsville, and then some of those from St. Martin's, and then some from St. Kitts, and you could make a little montage of them with a in between. Oh, it was live. Okay, if you in between, you had a graphic, you know, Townsville, so and so discovers Bitcoin Cash. St. Kitts, so and so discovers it. St. Martin, so and so discovers it, as like packaged up as a nice, you know, 5 or 6 minute video. That could, you know, and then just call it like Bitcoin Cash is taking over, or some hyperbolic headline to get people like, what's going on here? That, I think that could be killer. All right. Well, anyway, that's it for the show for this week. So thank you to all the donators. As always, you can donate to the show on chain, real BCH accepted only. None of this Lightning Network bullshit. Not your keys, not your coins, no custodians. Get that out of here. Start guide, FAQ, links, and all that is at bitcoincashpodcast.com. Yeah, thanks to the donators. Thanks to my patron, Ricky, and also shout outs for the show. Oh, I forgot to update this slide. But I kind of want to give a shout out to Nic Kyrgios, actually, who just played in and lost the Wimbledon finals. But being an Aussie, kind of got to shout him out and give him some reps. I watched him play a few years ago when he was a bit more up and coming. Now he's in the big leagues. Good effort, mate. And hopefully he can just learn. He's just got to settle down a bit with being a bit salty, trying to blame the crowd or his box or different things. Like, people like a bit of antics, so it's okay to have some antics, but just cut out the toxic part of it, because that doesn't help anyone, and it'll help you make more money and win more fans. So that's my shout out. Any shout out, Jett?
Unfortunately, no. I thought about it for a bit. I can't. I'm like 10% of a person.
No, it's all good. All right. That's it. Thanks, everyone. Until next time.
Bitcoin Bitcoin revolution, crypto trade on the rise. Then they stole our brand name and tried to push us aside, cause they said it was over, that we'd never survive. Maybe there was a world that was the end of the ride, but this kind of hero's journey is refusing to die. So we picked up the shovels and headed back to the mine. Started over from scratch, finding fresh dynamite. Flipping over the board, drew up fresh battle lines, set the diffy